I stopped my husband from committing self-cide, and he thinks I never knew his plans. My husband and I are 28. We have 3 kids. He's the only boyfriend I've ever had. He's been with me since high school. He's always had low self-esteem. I do too, but not like he does. One day, we got new phones, maybe 7 years ago. I found out I can read his texts. He can see mine too, but he didn't know about it. This happened for like another 2 years. For his birthday and Christmas, I'd snoop around his texts and see if there's something he was talking about that he wanted. One day, around November, I was being nosy to see what I can get him for Christmas. I was pregnant with our second child at the time. I saw he was texting someone something suspicious, saying, "Where can we meet?" And I thought this was with another girl. I read them more and I found out he was buying drugs. My husband and I don't even drink, so I freaked out. I wondered about how long this was going in for, if I even knew my own husband anymore. Turns out he was buying something that doesn't get you high, but kills you. I looked around everywhere. I tore our room apart and didn't find anything. I went through the search history and all his emails on his phone when he was asleep that night and found out he was making arrangements for a specific date 3 months after I was due. He was looking at life insurance, which we have had since I'm a stay-at-home mom. He was even looking up how much it costs to be cremated. Once he got home, the first thing I did was sneak his phone and text that guy and say, "I'm no longer interested. If someone else tells you otherwise, it means someone else has my phone," and deleted that guy's number. I didn't want him to know I was snooping, but the thought of my husband not being around tore me. I remember being sick to my stomach and bawling in our room just thinking of the idea of not having him around. I love him more than life in itself. I would die for him and not even have to think about it. My husband is my entire world. That day on, I made sure he knew that, even if it meant embarrassing myself. I started bringing him flowers at work almost every day. When he would come through the door, I would screech with excitement and give him a hug and a smooch and tell him I missed him so much and I couldn't stop thinking about him all day. When I was out with him, I would tell him how beautiful and handsome he is. When he was around my friends, I'd say, "Look at my husband, he's so beautiful." I'd call him at work and ask how much longer until he's home. I got him to start going to therapy too. One night, I woke him up because I was freaking out and couldn't sleep. I told him I had a nightmare. I said I had a dream he passed away. He said, "Why is that a bad thing?" And I told him how he's my entire world, and other than our son and our other on the way, he's all I live for. He said, "But things would be better if I was out of your hair." And I said, "No, they wouldn't. If you left me, it would literally ruin my life." He said, "Not if you're financially well off. You'll be much better off." And I said, "I could have all the money in the world. It would mean nothing if I didn't have you. I'd much rather be homeless, but still have you as my husband than be filthy rich and you be gone." And he said, "Are you serious?" And I said, 100%. I'd sleep under a bridge if it meant I still got to sleep next to you." He said, "I didn't know you felt that way." And I said, "I really do." I asked if I could go with him to therapy. He said yes. I told his therapist I think he has depression, and he admitted he might. He got a prescription, and it seemed to help him a whole lot. Even though it's been 5 years, I still do all those nice things for him, like call him handsome and bring him flowers. I don't ever want him to second guess for a second that he's my sunshine.
Excuse me, I need to go call my husband.
Guy here, and I have tears in my eyes.
Same. Made me think of myself and SO. My GF and I have gone through some hard times. Me working out of town but making good money and leaving my career to work in a warehouse making very little money. Her words, "I'd rather live paycheck to paycheck and be home with you every night than have you gone for a month, come back for a weekend and spoil me." So that's what I did. And we do live paycheck to paycheck, and I've never been happier. I'm gonna marry her someday. Money isn't everything.
Yes, this is so true. And OP is absolutely wonderful. What an intelligent, intuitive, loving person who has never given up. I wish I could say the same for my husband. We're currently separated. This is one of the many reasons. I have a rare chronic illness. It causes pain, severe weight loss, nausea, etc. It's brutal physically, but that led to the mental pain and anguish. Thankfully, a doctor recognized how long I had been battling it without mental health resources and referred me to a wonderful psychologist. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Because at home, I was mostly bedridden from being under 90 pounds, in pain, and unable to mentally cope with how my husband was just leaving our house in shambles, as if he'd never cooked and cleaned before we met. I started withdrawing from everyone, not taking visitors, calls, or texts. My husband just ignored me sometimes, not even asking if I was okay in the evening or if I needed food. Finally, my best friend since kindergarten kept calling and calling until I finally picked up and had a mental breakdown, telling her everything, including my self-cidal ideation. I had a whole plan and everything. She took action immediately, called my husband and my mom. My husband did nothing except pretend to be concerned and tell me lies that he had been worried and called my friend to try to get through to me. Total BS. My friend followed up and visited. She made sure I was seeing a psychiatrist who listened and cared. She checked up on me. Same with my mom. She was up at my house in a flash and stayed 2 weeks. No judgment, just love. But those never went away, not all the way. And my husband never admitted that his part was neglectful and uncaring. On top of it all, he physically hurt me later, so when I started feeling better, I ran. Literally. It's been tough because he still won't admit to what he did, and that's even more hurtful.
Yeah, that's what my dad did. He worked on the road and he'd leave for 8, 9 months at a time, almost went to work in Russia, made extremely good money. He then got in a wreck with a semi that almost killed him. He has low blood pressure, so he takes some medicine for it. Something happened with the medicine, and he reacted and passed out on his way to work. Well, he had cruise control set on 80. And when he did, he crossed into the grass and jumped an overpass and hit a semi, all while we had him on the phone that morning headed to school. It was the worst thing to hear anyways. He said that God revealed some things to him, and some things that he did wrong. And so he quit his job, and we started living paycheck to paycheck. But then my mom decided she was done with the marriage. I guess there were too many problems happening and not being talked about and fixed with him being gone for 8, 9 months. So all that to say, reaffirm, money is nothing compared to having a functional household that values relationships and loves one another.
I am crying now because that is the sweetest story. I'm happy he is still alive.
This is definitely one case where snooping on someone's phone or texts was the right answer. I'm so happy he is still here for you, OP. As a husband, I can't imagine how I'd feel if my wife suddenly started doing all that for me. This is love, and I wish you both a happy forever, OP.
OP says it's been 5 years, but I totally agree with this. More often than not, mental health issues are ongoing battles that one fights on a daily basis. I don't know about OP's husband, but sometimes being told how important you are to someone isn't enough. I'm glad they're getting therapy and hopefully are better now, but some folks just don't feel like they deserve to be loved for whatever reason. Aside from all this, I remember seeing Taylor Swift talk about addiction and quitting once and said something along the lines of, "It's an everyday battle that you have to fight, and most of the time you don't get a pat on the back for. It's invisible." I find it very applicable to depression as well.
I'm currently trying every day to not go back to self-cidal thoughts. It's so hard. All I want are friends to hang out with and someone to cuddle and kiss, neither of which I have.
When my father passed away, he left us a large sum of insurance money. The teller at the bank said something about it being nice to be getting such a large check, and my mother went off screaming that she'd rather have her husband back. My mother was 90 pounds soaking wet, and it took myself and my brother to hold her back. I'm happy you were able to catch your husband before the worst happened, and can wholeheartedly agree with what you said to him. A few bucks do not substitute someone you care about.
Jesus, do these people even think before they speak?
My 18M boyfriend, 17M, attempted self-cide recently. He feels really guilty all of the time, and he thinks that I don't like him even though he's the most precious thing in my life. And I really struggle to find what to say to him when he's in a bad moment, but your post helped me with it. I would never trade him for all the money in the world. He's all I have now, and if only 3 days without him caused me so much pain, I wouldn't even think about the rest of my life that way. Thank you for your post. I know what to say now. Hope you and your husband are well, and I wish you the happiest life ever.
This made me believe in humanity again. OP, I wish you both eternal happiness. Teary-eyed right now. Edit. You know how we all lost naive optimism in the goodness of world as we grew up? That's the content that makes you believe again.